Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 208 based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu's life and death book had been taken from shaman god Kuei, and those who knew that it was in his hands were Shingen, Pangong Tso, as well as the demon monks of Thunderclap Monastery. Shaman god Kuei should have been the heavenly official, or earthly official, a god that managed souls. It was unlikely that he had made it himself, but that it had been gifted to him. There was little doubt that celestial heavens wouldn't have many such treasures, and each one would have an owner. Because of that, Elder Messenger of Death was certain that Qin Mu would be tracked rather quickly. Tracking the whereabouts of life and death book was much simpler than tracking Qin Mu. The name that appeared on the life and death book just now was Ju Huang. Qin Mu flipped the yellow talisman up and revealed half of his face. What god is Ju Huang? He's a god in the Yellow Springs. After he inhales or exhales, floods rise in the worlds and reap the souls there. He is one of the 4 great commanders that the celestial heavens have stationed in Yudu, Elder Messenger of Death said. He's not the only one looking for you though. There are 3 other great commanders, Xian Ming who manages the souls, Han Lei who manages fate, and Lu Li who manages the prison. You shouldn't have taken out the life and death book. With it, it won't be hard for them to track you down. Qin Mu grew solemn. After a moment, he frowned and spoke in a troubled voice. If I give the life and death book to Grandmaster, or Shingen, pushing everything on them, I should remain unknown. Elder Messenger of Death looked at him. You're just 18 years old, so you can only sabotage youths of your age. The 2 people you mentioned are not suitable. Besides, after the 4 great commanders reap the soul of whoever you'd chosen to throw at them, they would discover your ruse. So it's not as simple to sabotage others as you think. Bah! Why am I helping you look for crooked ideas? Qin Mu released the yellow talisman, and it covered his face once more. He said while blushing, a just cause attracts much support, while an unjust one finds little. Official sovereign must have found me honest, which is why you shared your wisdom. Since we can't sabotage, can the 4 gods leave Yudu and enter Supreme Emperor Heaven, or Eternal Peace? The small boat sailed leisurely toward Supreme Emperor Heaven. Elder Messenger of Death placed his lantern on the pole and sat down. Their abilities are too powerful, so it's not easy for them to enter other worlds. However, they will find a way to capture you. Once you cultivate to life and death realm and open the divine treasure, they could enter through thereafter locating you. Qin Mu shuddered. Entering from his life and death divine treasure. Wouldn't all the divine arts practitioners of life and death realm be in extreme danger? However, Yudu has its own rules. Entering a life and death divine treasure to seize another's life is against Yudu's rules, so they won't be able to do it easily. Elder Messenger of Death had already shared a lot of information, so he felt like he might as well say everything. However, even though their true body can't leave, they can send their disciples to Supreme Emperor Heaven, or Eternal Peace, or they could find other people to act as their hands to kill you. Or when Supreme Emperor Heaven gets sacrificed by the devils to connect their world to Eternal Peace, the world barrier will cease to exist. At that time, they'll be able to enter Eternal Peace at leisure. Qin Mu relaxed and said with a smile, it's not easy to kill me, and it's also not easy to attack Supreme Emperor Heaven. It has told through 20,000 years, and now with the backing of Eternal Peace Empire, and endless reinforcements, it'll be easy to last another 20,000 years. Elder Messenger of Death sneered at him. You underestimate the devils. It's hard to say how long Supreme Emperor Heaven will last. We're here, you can take off the yellow talisman and return. Qin Mu looked over in a hurry, and saw that they were already in the battlefield from before. It seemed that they were exactly from where he had been taken, and so he just jumped out of the boat. Return me my yellow talisman. Elder Messenger of Death shouted. Qin Mu fled with the yellow talisman on his face, as though he was a thief that got discovered. Damn it. As Elder Messenger of Death saw him slipping away, he couldn't help seething with rage. He was about to give chase, but he suddenly stopped and burst out laughing. It's just a yellow talisman. I shall gift it to him so he doesn't cause any trouble. The small boat turned back and vanished into the darkness. Qin Mu covered over 10 miles before daring to look back. Only when he saw that Elder Messenger of Death really didn't give chase that he let out a sigh of relief. He plucked the yellow talisman from his face and examined it before putting it away. This yellow talisman is a good thing. Even gods and devils wouldn't be able to recognize me if I stick it on my face. At least I've gotten some good things from this trip to Yudu. He raised his head up and was slightly stunned. He saw flying ships sailing toward Li City, and they were only several hundred miles away from him. The pill furnaces of the flying ships spewed out intense light for them to remain airborne. I've left Supreme Emperor Heaven for quite a long time, some 6 hours, at least, so how did the flying ships only cover several hundred miles? According to their speed, it should have been thousands of miles. It looks as if only 15 minutes have passed. Qin Mu sprinted with all his strength to catch up. First, he caught up with the army traveling on land, and not long later, he caught up to the fleet of the flying ships. He came to the main ship. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and the Black Tiger God were looking at each other in horror, and so were everyone else in the surroundings. They were still discussing how Qin Mu had been invited into Yudu by the Messenger of Death, and what would happen next. Qin Mu chose that moment to run out from behind them. I'm back. How long have I been away? He asked with a smile. And not even an hour, Sang Hua stuttered in astonishment. You were taken by the Messenger of Death, and returned from Yudu already. The Messenger of Death was the official sovereign of Yudu. He even brought me to another world and found a strong practitioner of divine bridge realm named Hanjin. He said he would reap his soul after 3 days. He then brought me to Earth Count, and talked about the cause and effect of my actions. Earth Count said he would deal with me after I die, then shooed me back. On the way, we also met some gods and devils who wanted to take me. Qin Mu shared everything, finding it quite weird as well to have done so many things in such a short while. It would have taken 3 to 5 days in the world of living to accomplish all that. It was much shorter in Yudu, and even less time had passed in the world of the living in the meantime. Yudu is like a dream. Your trip to Yudu is equivalent to a dream. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's eyes flashed, and he said, as long as you returned alive, it doesn't matter. Is Earth Count very scary? Qin Mu shook his head. Earth Count is easy to talk to. It's the same for the Messenger of Death. Everyone's faces grew weird. Earth Count and the Messenger of Death were easy to talk to. Only Qin Mu could say something like that. Anyone, no matter if they were gods or devils, would change their act when talking about Earth Count. They were even more tight-lipped about the Messengers of Death. Maha! The young dragon on Qin Mu's body quickly slithered down, and ran to Qin Mu to rub against him. Feeling somewhat resentful, Qin Mu thought to himself, I haven't even felt its warmth yet, and it's lured away by him again. Qin Mu caressed the little dragon, and moved it to his ear. Its head hung down, while its dragon's whiskers swayed in the air. Jealousy took root in Qin Mu's heart. Junior brother Qin, lend me your little dragon for a period of time. I might even need to bring him to Great Ruins. I will return him to you after I come back, and you will definitely be surprised. Qin Mu said with a smile. I was captured by Fu Riluo and struggled for my life. After going to Yudu, I'm truly tired, so I shall take a rest first. Qin Mu looked at him bringing the little dragon away, and thought to himself, I wonder if my little dragon will really be mine after a few days. Its soul was already lured away by him. Elder Messenger of Death returned to manner of benevolent saintly king equal to heaven, and flipped open a thick book. It was the book he had handed to the Magma Earth Count. Qin Mu had wanted to read it as well, but Magma Earth Count was too tall. He also needed to act obediently, so he didn't get to see the contents of the book. Elder Messenger of Death turned the first page and saw flowing pictures. There was a piece of dark land on which a pregnant woman was giving birth. Boundless devil chi and grievances of the broken souls flowed furiously toward the small delivery room. That place seemed to contain a terrifying devil king that was swallowing the evil devil nature and devil chi of Yudu like a whale. Meanwhile, outside that piece of land, countless devil gods were alarmed and hid in the darkness, looking nervously at the first life form that was born from the womb in the history of Yudu. The descent of the Son of God, a devil god said in the corner of the page. In the sky above the delivery room, scarlet red eyes opened. There was 1, 2, no, 3 of them. Elder Messenger of Death flipped to the second page, and the picture changed. A big fat boy jumped down from the embrace of the woman, his 3-eyed form catching the Messenger of Death's attention. The boy was wreaking havoc on a dark land, his 2 chubby fists holding tight the 2 devil gods that had come to assassinate him. His 3 eyes opened up, and 3 beams shot out. They scorched the land, burning numerous monsters into oblivion. All ghosts there, big and small, were fleeing for their lives. Even ghost kings didn't look back on their way out. Their malicious faces were filled with terror, creating a surreal sight. The baby brought the devil god to his mouth and bit off half a head. It was a bloody event. Elder Messenger of Death shook his head and continued to browse. The next page was about how after the baby had swallowed countless souls and ate 2 devil gods, he became ridiculously huge and terrified everyone who saw his ferocious appearance. He crushed numerous levels of hells, killing all of the devil gods that came after his mother and clansmen. He made them all piss their pants and flee for their lives. However, the baby seemed to contain incomparably evil thoughts in nature. It didn't matter to him if before him were devils, who were chasing after them, or ghosts, who were simply residing in Yudu. He killed and ate all of them. Elder Messenger of Death saw panic and fear on the mother's face. She looked afraid of her own son, his devil nature. Elder Messenger of Death flipped to the next page, and it was another picture of the baby slaughtering everyone. In the picture, he was standing on a huge devil dragon while slitting open its belly. His 3 eyes revealed a murderous glint. Yet at the end of the painting, when the baby finished eating, he changed back into a small form and asked his mother to carry him. Elder Messenger of Death flipped page after page, watching things that were harder and harder to see. The baby crushed waves and waves of devil gods chasing after them, and this massacre alarmed the big shots hiding in Yudu. They crusaded against the baby and fought with him until heaven fell and earth rent. Near the end of the book, the baby had relied on his evil nature and ruthlessness to become one of the powers in Yudu. One day, he came to the borders of Yudu and used his huge scarlet eyes to peep into the world of the living with an excited gaze. On the other side of the picture, the big shots of Yudu were talking about something to Earth Count. The mother was also there, appealing to the Lord. The Earth Count picked a broken piece of jade from the corner of his horn and refined it into a jade pendant. The mother held back her tears as he put down a seal on it. She then called her son over and put the jade pendant around his neck. The devil nature within him was suppressed along with his god nature. His body returned to normal, changing back into the most ordinary baby, a really tiny thing. He lay in his swaddling clothes and raised his arms and legs while crying ee. He then sucked his toe very seriously. The mother carried him up and gave him a few kisses, before reluctantly putting him into a basket. Some woman picked it up and took a paper boat to leave into the distance. At the back, ghost kings, other ghosts of all sizes, as well as the devil gods that were faintly discernible, beat drums and gongs to celebrate the baby's departure. Elder Messenger of Death flipped to the last page, which was of Qin Mu in the ominous land. With his long hair draped over his shoulders, he cast a spell with his sword raised and opened gate of heaven influence to summon the souls from the world of the dead. At that time, the jade pendant on his neck had floated up. 18 years. Elder Messenger of Death closed the book and hid it properly. He then exhaled deeply. It's completely impossible to see what this brat had been like before. I truly hope his devil nature will never awaken and control him again. Luckily Earth Count sealed and exiled him to the world of the living, otherwise, what would Yudu have become by today? Yet if he'd been left in Yudu, he probably wouldn't have lived to 18 years old. He probably would have been eaten by Earth Count long ago for doing too much evil. There's still one suspicious point from Qin Fengqing's incident, and that is that Earth Count had already sealed him. By right, all of his divine treasures should have been sealed so he wouldn't have been able to cultivate, or even open his divine treasures, let alone become a divine arts practitioner. Elder Messenger of Death paced around while thinking about the matter. He could only live like a mortal till his body stopped functioning, which is for around 100 years at most. Yet how was he able to open his divine treasures? Earth Count had sealed Qin Mu's devil nature and his memory. His god nature was also sealed along with it. During the process, Earth Count's voice had formed a seal on Qin Mu's divine treasures. It was an accidental act, and the suppression was a side effect of sealing his god nature and devil nature. The seal hadn't been meant to be that terrifying, but it ended up cutting off his path of cultivation. This also meant that there was no god or devil nature in Qin Mu's body. All of his divine treasures, no matter whether they were god or devil, were sealed and could never be opened. It was thus impossible for him to cultivate and improve himself. After Qin Mu went to the world of the living, he should have led a life like a normal human being and spent his life ordinarily. Yet his divine treasures had opened. To make matters worse, he had also cultivated so fast that he had already opened 7 stars divine treasure, and even merged 7 stars and 6 directions into one. At first, he'd opened the divine treasures of his divine path, while now the speed of his devil path cultivation was as though he had the assistance of a god. It was extremely strange. Opening spirit embryo divine treasure requires one to rely on their abilities. Nobody else could help even if they wanted to, so he could have only relied on himself. Yet the seal on his divine treasures was 100 times harder than those of an ordinary person. This was because if he tried to break the spirit embryo wall, he would activate Earth Count's seal, and the 9 heavens god language of Earth Count would come from above. And if he tried to open the spirit embryo divine treasure of the devil path, he would encounter Earth Count's Yudu devil language. Elder Messenger of Death couldn't think of an explanation no matter what. He wasn't omniscient and omnipotent, and he also couldn't return to the night when Qin Mu had consumed the blood of the 4 spirits. He didn't know that on that night, there had been an old man whose limbs were severed sitting beside the bonfire in disabled elderly village, and speaking to the fiendish villagers around him. My guess is that Mua has another type of constitution, one that combines the strength of the 4 great constitutions, an overlord body, he had said at that time. With that sentence, a legend had been born, turning the impossible possible. The villagers of disabled elderly village found even more blood of the 4 spirits, going all out for Qin Mu to consume as much as possible. The youth had also worked much harder, as he had the belief of being invincible in his heart. He was the overlord body, the strongest spirit body. If he couldn't open his divine treasure, it would definitely be because he wasn't working hard enough, and didn't deserve the title of overlord body. And like that, Earth Count's seal got thinner and thinner from his grind, and he learned the devil and god languages. He then used the instant when the god, devil, and Buddha languages crossed to break open his spirit embryo divine treasure. From then onwards, his future had become bright. Earth Count's seal was still there, and his devil and god nature was still sealed. However, the even stronger belief to grow that flooded out from the tiny body was something that Earth Count and the other big shots in Yudu would have never expected. The story of a legend had begun from a white lie by an elder who looked like a human rod and lay beside a bonfire that night. Besides that, there's also the weird incident from that time he was exiled out from Yudu and left in great ruins. What had happened back then? Elder Messenger of Death shut his eyes, then opened them after a long moment and took out Yudu's life and death book. What happened must be related. I should find that woman who had carried him away back and ask her about what happened. If she's still alive, I can locate her with life and death book, and if she has died, her soul should have returned to Yudu. He flipped through Yudu's life and death book, and his expression slowly became grim. The woman's name had already been removed from the life and death book. This meant that there were two possibilities. First, her soul might have scattered, just like that of 7 Kills Star Sovereign. When souls cease to exist, their names would automatically vanish from the life and death book. Second, her soul had landed in Fengdu or some other place that was similar to Yudu. What exactly did she experience? Elder Messenger of Death sighed and closed the life and death book. His body shook, and he separated a number of himself out. They each got into a boat to leave. Now the little Overlord of Youdu is much cuter than in the past. I like this brat called Qin Mu more and don't want to see Qin Fengqing again. However, the seal has already become loose once, and Celestial Heavens is also looking for him. If the seal breaks in the future, and Qin Mu turns back into Qin Fengqing, I'm afraid Yudu will be in danger. In Li City, Qin Mu opened his eyes in a daze, his face damp. Qin Yu's little dragon was lying on his face and licking his cheek. Qin Mu pinched the tail of the little thing and lifted him up. The small dragon raised his head and climbed onto his arms. It went up his shoulders and hung himself down from his ear. Qin Mu took a pail of water to wash his face, and the little dragon also took the chance to bury his face in the water. It sucked in a mouthful and spat it out to play around. Qin Mu walked out of the cabin and stretched his back. He had been sleeping on the ship the whole night. Hu Ling'er, Ling Yuxiu, Sai Yinxiang, and Sang Hua had woken up early and were cooking. Upon seeing him awake, they greeted him. The chest clattered over and rubbed against Qin Mu's legs. It opened up and showed him the bones it had collected. The dragon Chalin bit onto a huge basin and walked over. He wagged his tail and placed the basin at Qin Mu's feet. Fatty dragon, haven't you hid a few furnaces of spirit pills in the chest? Qin Mu took out an apron and went to help the girls cook. He said with a smile, "Let me do it. Cult Master even knows how to cook." Sang Hua asked with astonishment. Cult Master is an expert in cooking, the dishes he makes are delicious. During the days when Princess Xiao and I were seized by Grandpa blind to marry him, it was Cult Master who did all the cooking. I even got addicted to his food and wanted to marry him for real. Sai Yuanxing explained in an excited voice. Ling Yuxiu's eyes lit up. I was also addicted and even hoped Grandpa blind could try to force us to marry once more. Let's just wait for Cowherd to send up the delicacies. Qin Mu received the ladle, and his heart moved slightly, turning his vital qi into fire. He said with a smile, "Actually, Grandpa Mute in our village cooks the best dishes. Grandpa Apothecary's medicinal cuisine tastes the most delicious, while Grandpa Ma is a master of vegetarian dishes. Granny Sai also cooks well, but no one dares to eat them, since we don't know what kind of ingredients she uses. The others can't really cook. The dragon Qin looked at the chest, and it showed him its collections of bones, seemingly very happy. It then threw 2 bones at him. The dragon Qin rummaged through the chest's insides, until he found some spirit pills. The black tiger god walked over, his voice booming like thunder. "Fatty dragon, stop eating, I shall bring you to train. The best time to train is right after waking up in the morning. You taught me many things, so I'm going to teach you as well. I shall help you get rid of the excess flab on your body. Junior brother, I'm going to borrow your fatty." "Senior brother, feel free," Qin Mu hurriedly said. The dragon Qin tried to finish all of the spirit pills in his basin in one swallow, but before he could get all of them inside his mouth, the black tiger god grabbed his tail and dragged him away. "My bowl." The dragon Qilin's cries rang loud in the air. "I haven't even licked it clean. Little fox, come over after you finish your breakfast and train with me. I shall bring you guys to attack the enemy camp," the black tiger shouted from afar. Hu Ling acknowledged, and the black tiger dragged the dragon Qin by his tail. Qin Mu finished cooking and took off his apron. He sat down with the girls in front of the dining table, while Hu Ling scooped porridge for them before sitting down as well. The small dragon on Qin Mu's ear secretly stretched out its claws and quickly grabbed a piece of stir-fried clam meat before retreating. It hugged the meat and started eating. Everyone ate and chatted. Ling Yuxiu and Cai Yinxiang had also went to Fengju before and learned some techniques and divine arts from the gods and devils there. However, the techniques and divine arts they cultivated weren't complete, and the gods and devils of Fengju could only teach. They still had to comprehend them by themselves. However, Supreme Emperor Heaven's inheritances are complete, and we've learned quite a number of good things during these few days that we were here. With Imperial Preceptor keeping the battle line, there won't be any huge battles after this victory for the time being. We can take this chance to learn from senior sisters and brothers of Supreme Emperor Heaven before exchanging blows with senior brothers and sisters of the devil race. There is quite a number of disciples from our heavenly devil cult that have come here. Sister Sang Hua had also said she wanted to go to Heavenly Saint Academy to learn for a period of time, Cai Yuanxiang said. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment. We might be able to establish a branch of Heavenly Saint Academy here, and invite famous gods, devils, and divine bride realm practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven to give lectures. The people of Supreme Emperor Heaven could also go to Heavenly Saint Academy to cultivate for a period of time. This way we could interact frequently, and not hold up the situation of the battle. They ate and chatted around the dining table. After Hu Ling finished eating, she rushed out to train with the Black Tiger God and the Dragon Qin. Qin Mu and the girls stayed back to wash the dishes. When He boarded the ship, he couldn't help becoming astonished when she saw Qin Mu washing the dishes. With a strange expression, she said hesitantly, "Cult Master, some devil scouts are lingering around in the battlefield. I'd like to bring Sang Hua and the rest for guerrilla warfare and meet them." Qin Mu nodded and said with a smile, "You guys go ahead, I shall do the dishes." Cai Yinxiang immediately ran off, after pulling Ling Yuxiu and Sang Hua along with her. From afar, His voice came in a whisper, "Isn't it improper to let Cult Master wash the dishes? How can he do such trivial matter as a Cult Master?" Cai Yinxiang smiled at her. "Our Heavenly Saint cult is impudent like this. We don't have that many rules." He relaxed and said with a smile, "Cult Master once said that our Heavenly Saint cult is outstanding in the righteous path, and upon seeing his action, as he serves as a role model, I finally understand that it isn't by chance that our Heavenly Saint is outstanding in the righteous path." This, Cai Yinxiang stared wide-eyed, not knowing what she should say. Qin Mu finished cleaning up, and the chest clattered over to him again. It opened up and showed the bones it had collected. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took out some spirit weapons of the devil race and placed them inside it. During this trip out, I killed numerous devil experts and took their spirit weapons. You should start collecting them instead of just always focusing on bones. The chest threw out the spirit weapons, choosing to continue to collect bones. Qin Mu shook his head and took out the true dragon's nest. He plucked out the little dragon from his ear and said with a smile, "Little Dao friend, you've been pestering me, because the item you want to see is this." The eyes of the little dragon lit up, and he cried out "Maha Maha" without stopping. Qin Mu laughed and brought the little dragon into the true dragon's nest. The human and dragon landed inside, and Qin Mu let go of the small creature. The little dragon immediately flew round and round the nest, ineffably excited. Qin Mu took out Emperor's disc and threw it into the sky. The Emperor's disc changed into the true Dragon Lord and became compatible with the nest. Instantly, a vast and boundless dragon chi spread out, and countless writings of the dragon race appeared. That little dragon flew to and fro to read all of them. His Maha Maha cries turned into cryptic dragon language that was hard to understand. He was comprehending the writings on the true dragon's nest. The bloodline of the little dragon was very pure, since he was the son of surging river dragon king. Qin Mu called him Little Dao friend, but his actual age was actually over 20,000 years. It was just that he had been frozen in the dragon bead by surging river dragon king that he could never grow. The dragon language from his mouth became more and more cryptic. He was the son of the dragon king, and his bloodline was even higher than that of Bai Qingfu, and Bai Chua that Qin Mu had met 40,000 years ago, when he had traveled back in time to High Emperor era. While listening, he could decipher more and more of the dragon language. Qin Mu just stood and listened to the dragon roars while mobilizing his vital qi to check the true dragon technique he had learned previously. His comprehension naturally became better and better as well. The little dragon flew up and down many times. It was hard to say how long had passed when he finally deciphered all of the writings. He then suddenly landed on the ground, and his body trembled, changing into that of a youth. He had a handsome appearance and majestic bearing. He looked slightly similar to Qin Yu, and he bowed in gratitude. Much thanks to Cult Master Qin for bestowing the technique and assistance for me to awaken my intelligence. Qin Mu returned the greeting and said with a smile, "I lent you a hand to learn the technique of the true dragon's nest, so there's no need to thank me. May I ask how I should address Little Dao friend? My family uses Jiang as a surname, and my mother bestowed the name Miao on me, so I'm called Jiang Miao," he answered. "Even though I have deciphered the writings on the true dragon's nest once, I'm still a second generation, and my bloodline isn't pure enough. We'll need a divine dragon to decipher it for us to gain the complete true dragon lord's technique." Qin Mu frowned. "There's no true dragon in Supreme Emperor Heaven that has become God. Where can we find a divine dragon?" "There's a divine dragon in Great Ruins. While following Qin Yu, I heard his calls from time to time." Qin Mu's spirit was greatly aroused, and he said with a smile, "In that case, let's head to Great Ruins." In the broken parameter arc in Great Ruins, huge chunks of land floated in a large seal. Suddenly, a long roar sounded out as a divine bridge broke through the air. Shingen's primordial spirit crossed it and soared to the celestial palaces on the other shore. "I'm out." Shingen retrieved his primordial spirit and rose up. He shouted sternly, "You mute, come here. You've been meddling with me time and time again. Now that I have crossed the divine bridge, come out and die." "Die, die, die," his echo rang back. The mute had long fled. Shingen's face turned black, and he rushed out in wide strides. At this moment, his body trembled slightly. In his life and death divine treasure, Lu Li's devil eye appeared once more, and her sinister voice rang out. The person you're looking for has a life and death book that once belonged to shaman god Kuei. Find that person. Lu Li's devil eye vanished. Xing'an stood motionless in the air with a dumbfounded gaze. Great physician Qin, so it's you. Xing'an was dispirited, and his heart was flustered. So it was you. I've trusted you time and time again, and not once did I expect for you to be even worse than that mute. It's you. I would like to see what tricks can you play this time. Qin Mu brought little dragon Jiang Miao out through spirit energy mutual shift bridge and looked around. He couldn't help the astonishment that welled up in him. Great Ruins spirit energy mutual shift bridge was right in the center of it, and there was 2 stone paved road that was 100 yards each on both sides of the sacrificial altar. Meanwhile, surrounding spirit energy mutual shift bridge were ancient temples, shrines, and divine palaces like a city that was twice larger than Border Dragon City. People came and went, making the place quite bustling. The temples and ruins had all been moved from elsewhere in Great Ruins to defend against the darkness. There were also numerous stone statues being worshipped with endless streams of incense. Many villages had settled in the city, and no longer had to struggle for their lives daily. They became merchants, which connected Middle Earth and West Earth. A primary school and a college had been also established to teach techniques and divine arts. It was just that they didn't have any sacred ground like the 4 great academies, or Imperial College. There were also huge ruins outside the city for the strange beasts nearby to hide from the darkness. It was all very thoughtful. In this city, new and old constructions were in a picturesque disorder, setting each other off nicely. Qin Mu only took a rough look, and he could already tell that the person that planned the city was of rather high culture, self-cultivation, and had talent in city planning. His admiration for beauty had also reached extremely high attainments. New branches from an old tree, creating contrast between the old and new. It's indeed not bad. It might be because I've seen too many crooked constructions in Supreme Emperor Heaven that I feel so much more at home in Great Ruins. The chest ran out from Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge behind him, and Qin Mu shook his head. The chest kept sticking to him. Since the Dragon Qilin and Hulinga had been brought to the battlefield for training, it followed him without sparing any effort. Cult Master, I feel the call of the Divine Dragon again. Jiang Miao said after looking around. Follow me. He shook his body and transformed into a little dragon. He flew out of the city, and Qin Mu brought the chest to chase after him, going into the depths of Great Ruins. Even though Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had finished the construction of the 2 roads which linked West Earth, Great Ruins, and Eternal Peace, there were still endless vast lands with few people around. Those places were all very mysterious. Qin Mu followed Jiang Miao to deeper into Great Ruins. They flipped through mountains and rivers, walking across pieces of ancient ruins. When night came, he let Jiang Miao lay on the chest while he walked through the darkness. The chest followed close behind him. Great Ruins in the darkness was completely different from Great Ruins in the day. When Qin Mu walked by himself through it, he could see Supreme Emperor Heaven that had become the darkness, and numerous devils moving unpredictably. They would move along with them continuously, or jump onto trees from time to time. Sometimes they would hide behind rocks and observe them secretly, not daring to get close. These devils aren't Supreme Emperor Heaven's devils. The Dark Realms in Great Ruins aren't only Supreme Emperor Heaven. Qin Mu was astonished. He had originally thought that the devils in the darkness of Great Ruins were from Supreme Emperor Heaven, and that he had unraveled the whole mystery. Yet from the looks of it, the devils around him had nothing to do with Supreme Emperor Heaven. That was because when the people of Supreme Emperor Heaven saw Great Ruins in the darkness, all they could see were blurry shadows. Back then, Sang Hua had seen Qin Mu as a boy made of darkness. And once the time was up, he scattered like black sand. While in the darkness of great ruins, Qin Mu saw the people of Supreme Emperor Heaven the same way. They were from two different worlds, and they couldn't touch each other or interact in any way. Yet the monsters in the darkness of great ruins were different. They had truly existed in the darkness of great ruins. There are just so many secrets in great ruins. Qin Mu sighed, and Jiang Miao pointed out the direction for him. They continued to head forward. 2 days later, they came to the northwest side of great ruins as the sun rose as usual. Qin Mu swept his gaze around and said with a smile, "This place isn't too far from Parameter Arc. I once drove Moon ship through here. Look, here's its footprint." The huge imprint had already become a small lake, and there were even some weird fish swimming inside. The call of the divine dragon is in the vicinity. Jiang Miao rose into the sky, then looked around and headed west. Qin Mu hurriedly caught up to him, and they came to a canyon. Suddenly, everything became silent, not a sound could be heard. Qin Mu frowned and looked at their surroundings. He pulled back Jiang Miao, who was about to enter the canyon by following the call of the divine dragon, and said, "Keep calm, don't get excited." Jiang Miao didn't understand what he meant. Qin Mu surveyed the surroundings, and his gaze landed on the footprints of Moon ship. This is the place where Parameter Arc was sealed. Parameter Arc is a ship forged by Heavenly Works god race for emigration. They had wanted to use it to bring all the lives of their land, as well as the gods and devils of founding emperor era, to Carefree Village. However, it crashed here because of an attack using brute force. The call of the divine dragon might not be real. This place shouldn't have even a single strange beast. When he'd used Moon ship to pass this place, he had entered the overlapping space that sealed Parameter Arc nearby. The footprints left behind by Moon ship vanished by where they were standing. Back then, he had faced numerous monsters and devil gods. They had pounced on Moon ship furiously, and many lost their lives. Yet when he returned to this place, he couldn't even see a bone. In front of the lakes of the canyon, sand covered the land. There was not a single rock to be found, not even the size of a fingernail. There were huge words covering the walls on both sides, but they weren't in human language. Instead of being squarish, they looked like complicated runes. Qin Mu didn't enter the canyon, but stood outside while examining the runes on the wall. It's a kind of god writing used for sealing. This video will end here.